the pop culture film manual.
Welcome, everybody, to another amazing and probably very disturbing episode of the Pop Culture Film Manual podcast. I'm Israel. This is Cameron. We are happy to be back with you for another amazing time. By the way, folks, if you like what you're seeing here, especially on YouTube, we got the first formation with me talking about amazing things in pop culture that are coming up for the week ahead, and then the debrief with Cameron, military news that has happened in the prior week. And then we got some great stuff in the works that we're working on literally right now. Before I was texting somebody cool, and we're working on some more content for that. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, tell your friends, follow, comment, blah 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 blah. Now that the lighthearted stuff is getting out of the way,
bring in the dark, dude. I'm actually really excited.
That sounds weird, Cameron.
It does sound really weird, but let me explain myself.
Okay,
because
right.
you obviously have no context as to what we're talking about. So today I had this idea. I've been watching a lot of Criminal Minds lately. I've been watching some Monk. I've been watching some Law and Order.
Monk, man.
Oh, I love Monk. Yeah, I grew up on Monk,
baby.
I
just started watching Marvelous Miss Maisel. He plays the dad in that. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I have no idea what that is, but super cool. But yeah, so pretty much I've been watching Law and Order SVU. So all these crimes, all these real life, mystery crimes. And as we all know, crimes and mysteries are super popular on the podcast platform. I mean, There's entire sections for them.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And you know who does not have a short of mysterious and sexual and murders and, assault-based crimes? Our beloved military.
Salute to you, military.
Salute to you. So we are going to do an episode on some of the craziest, kind of real life CSI and pop culture portrayals of military crimes.
Yep, military crimes. And not to put down the military too much. The military is full of people, and people can be weird. People can be crazy. People, so it's just more in a concentrated environment because you're in a structured environment like the military that these things really pop out. And most military people are just normal, everyday guys and girls, and who go about their day and they perform their job with honor. But some of them have
weirdos.
Dark urges. Yeah.
No, there's a lot of weirdos in the military, man.
Yeah, there are. And I think what it's funny is that the military structure, the left structuring that happens in the military. You got the uniforms, everything's supposed to be kind of squared away. For some reason, I think maybe it either it causes it to squeeze out more. And at least when it does happen, it's more shocking because you're I thought these were supposed to be military people. I thought they were supposed to be squared away. Something about the military discipline has kind of curtailed that.
They're supposed to be the best of us.
Yeah, but they're not. They're just
not.
Sometimes they're a serial killer, actually, as we'll talk about a little bit later in the episode.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've told some stories about people you've served with.
Yes,
that's some crazy stuff. I have some stories of people I've served with that are in jail now for life. But yeah, dude, let's get into it. Let's see. Should I even read this? Let's see. No, I already did this intro, but we can just skip it.
Yeah.
Over.
No, if you jump right into it. Yeah.
Let's jump right into it because there's some movies that do a really good job of this, and like I said, the mystery and the crime. I don't know why people are so obsessed with that. Let's first of all, you want to talk about that really?
Yeah.
Let me try that again without smacking my mic. First of all, you want to talk about this really quick about
that's a good one.
What is you think the draw? What do you think is the appeal about murders and rapes and mysteries and all these things that for some people are so curious about, but they are the worst of us and they are the worst things that can possibly happen? What do you think? Why do you think people are so drawn to stuff like this?
Man, I always try to put things within the context of some sort of kind of primal, universal, and timeless. I say universal and timeless a lot when it comes to aspects of our humanity that unite us all, that we can all relate to, something that we all in our guts are afraid of or know it's coming, or you want to stave it off, but you want to try to explore it and talk about it and understand it in some sort of way, right?
Yeah.
Because we all have this sense of whether it's self-preservation or whether it's love for other people, kindness, basically, like we kind of get these basic niceties or civilization kind of. So when somebody goes way off on a tangent and is like a serial killer or murder or or they're really good at covering it up,
Yeah.
there's something about that urge to explore that and try to understand that. I think it's just kind of basic within our humanity, which is why I think at least murder mysteries are so popular. We want to try to solve these things because I don't know, there's a
Sure.
fascination that we have with death because it's so final and it's so important, like basic to our humanity and and just being living creatures here, that when we see it, it's so foreign to us because it's like nobody comes back from that. Well, few people come back from that. Thank you, Lord Jesus. But
Yeah.
but yeah. So anyway, what do you think, man? Why do you think we're so fascinated with murder mysteries, serial killers, that kind of stuff? Why do you think they capture our imaginations?
That's a good question, my brother. I think so this is like a taboo, right? So people are obsessed with things that they can't necessarily do, or things that are necessarily acceptable in a public eye. Like, okay, when you see someone walking down the street, right? You know nothing about them. They could, how you perceive them immediately based off a judgment, right? That kind of level one thinking,
Mm-hmm.
or that what's that book that talks about like your initial judgment? A book about
Discrimination to disparities. That's
no.
something that talks about it. That's a Thomas Sowell kind of book.
Uh, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Oh, okay, cool. Right on.
Yeah, Thinking Fast and Slow. So I forgot exactly what he calls it, but there's two types of thinking, right? You have your fast thinking and your slow thinking. It's like a level 1 and a level 2. So level 1's like an immediate perception, but just based off of observation,
Okay.
right? There's no critical thinking involved. It's just like, hey, if you see someone on the street, they look normal, you assume they're normal. But at home, behind closed doors, they might be a serial killer or
Mm-hmm.
something. You have literal no idea. But I think there's this attraction to, acts that are so frowned upon. There's like this adrenaline you get. And that's why we have things like taboo. That's why, I think pedophiles exist. That's why we have serial killers exist. They go at, like, I've watched enough Criminal Minds to know.
I've seen Mine Hunters.
Yeah, I've watched enough Criminal Minds to know the reason. I've been inside the head of a serial killer. So like they do it because it's that thrill, that rush. And like if you can get that thrill and that rush kind of living vicariously through someone or a story, or because that's why we watch movies, right? They give
Yeah.
us a feeling.
Yep.
They give us happiness, sadness, relief, joy. They make us laugh. And I think when we hear about murder mystery, we feel that rush. We feel that, and either whether it be the feeling of the detective arresting them and putting them away and feeling like you were right there alongside him and you did a great thing, or you're a little bit more demented and you feel that rush from like that. I don't want to feel this way, but I can understand, like, why they're doing this. It gives you a little taste of like that feeling in the inside of the head. So maybe that's why people are obsessed with like more macabre type of things.
Yeah.
Like murders and mysteries.
Yeah. That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff.
No problem. No problem. Anyways, when it comes to like military stuff, my beloved military, the love of my life, the Army. Don't tell my fiance I said that. It'll bring out problems. Just kidding.
She doesn't listen to
But
the
not
podcast
really.
anyway.
But not really. She didn't listen to this podcast. Who am I kidding? But like, for example, have you ever seen the movie Basic with Samuel L. Jackson?
Yes.
So this one also like a mystery, trying to figure out what happened on a military exercise. It was just an exercise. Nothing should have gone wrong.
Yeah.
And like, they have death and murder and mystery and oh
Yeah.
my, and this DEA agent comes in. But like, it's just the military part that like they get so inaccurate, that I'm
Yeah.
just like cringed at, to where it doesn't make me want to watch it anymore.
Yeah.
But so that's why I'm kind of not really appealed to like military murder mysteries. But Basics is a fun one. I watched that one fairly recently within the last year, and that one was just like kind of over the top. And it also had to do with Army Rangers, so that when you use my title,
Yeah.
then I hyperfixate, and
Yeah.
I'm
It's going to
like,
get your
yeah,
attention.
it does. So I mean, it's terrible, but I mean, it ends in a very interesting way. There's like a black ops group that's actually undercover. So there's like a twist within a twist within a twist.
Exactly. It's like a nobody done it kind of thing.
Yeah, nobody did it. It's like this went according to plan all along.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the DEA agent that's there is in the wrong. Or it's wait, no, is it a
John
woman?
Travolta's the
John,
guy,
yeah,
and he ends up. It was almost like a recruiting mission, if I understand correctly, because at the end you find out that everybody involved is this kind of elite unit, and they were actually sent to uncover some other crime that
yeah,
he unknowingly helped them to do. But he thought they were all dead all along. But then he comes into a room and they're all like playing poker or whatever. They're like, "Join our crew. We're gonna go find out other bad military people or whatever."
yeah. No, interest. It's like a black ops that like they heard stories of, but they're like, yeah, they're not real. And at the end, they're like, they're all real, and
Yeah,
everybody involved in the quote unquote mystery is part of it. And they're like, you want to join us now that you figured it out? And it's like, yeah,
yeah.
okay, yeah. It's like, yeah, yeah, okay, I got it, I got it.
Yep.
But yeah, no, Basic was fun. Courage Under Fire is still on my list. But then we can't talk about actual military movies before we get into the real stuff because I'm more concerned about the real stuff.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, yeah.
yeah, A Few Good Men. This one's excellent.
Classic.
Yeah, A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise. Or I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes,
Tom
okay.
Cruise. Yep. Yep. Jack Nicholson,
Jack Nicholson,
Demi
Tom
Moore.
Cruise. Yes.
What Kevin Bacon too, right? Yeah,
Is
Kevin
it
Bacon.
Kevin Bacon
I
in
think
it?
Kevin Bacon was the other. He's not like he's the other lawyer that's with him. He's not like the main character, but
Yeah.
uh,
Jack Nicholson, right
yeah,
on. This is where you can't handle the truth comes
that's
from,
it. That's the
right?
one of the most
That's the line.
iconic military or movie speeches of all time. Yep.
Yeah, and luckily it's in a military movie. But yeah, they're in a naval base, Guantanamo Bay Naval Base in Cuba, and
Hmm.
they're investigating the disappearances of a guard, right? And
Yep.
come to find out, nobody liked this guy, and everybody was on it, right? And they're like, "Well, we can get rid of him because
Well,
it's
yeah,
fun."
he was a weak guy, weak
Yeah,
soldier. He'd been having trouble, and the whole idea was that somebody or was a code red or something like that, and he ends up dying. It was meant to punish him, but he ended up dying, and these two Marines are accused, and they want to find out what the whole story is, and it turns out in the end, Jack Nicholson was the one who ordered it. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was afraid that this weak soldier, this weak Marine, would endanger everybody else's because you got to have hard men on those walls and you sleep soundly at night because men like me stand on the walls to protect you, and
Exactly.
yeah, it's awesome. It's such a great speech, but it's basically his confession,
Yeah.
and yeah, Aaron Sorkin, I think he wrote there. It's a play and it's a movie. So it was a play first, and I think by Aaron Sorkin as well. And then he wrote the screenplay for Rob Reiner when they did the movie back in 1992.
Yeah. No, it's a classic. We've talked about it before on the podcast, so I don't want to like hammer it too much.
Sure.
But it's a great example of like a military kind of like how that court system goes. It's weird cuz not a lot of people realize that the military has its own justice system.
Right. The Unified
Uniform
Code,
code
Uniform Code
of
of Military Justice. Yeah.
military, the UCMJ, man,
UCMJ.
the scariest four letters in the alphabet.
Yeah, that's where we get Article 15s from.
Yeah, and that's like low level. I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you a company grade. We're gonna bump that up to company grade, buddy. You're not gonna
Yeah.
fucking see any money for a long time. Yeah. Did you ever get an Article 15?
I don't think I did. I don't remember getting
Yeah,
any
I was
Article
clean.
15s. Yeah, I was pretty clean, man. I
Yeah.
was too afraid to mess up, man. I never did anything like out of the ordinary. The only thing I did, and I never got caught for, was sneak it out of the barracks one night in basic training in order to leave a message for the Green Beret recruiter so he could get my contract changed.
Mhm.
And then he came around later on, but nobody ever found out I did that, so I didn't get in trouble.
Okay, cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, we've all done. It didn't happen unless you get caught.
Yeah.
It's not illegal unless it's you get caught. And that's not telling you people to go out doing illegal stuff. I mean, do it. Honestly, I don't care. I'm not. I know in my heart that I'm not telling you to do anything, so you can't come at me. But
Yeah.
do whatever you want.
You're
It's not my
responsible for your own actions.
Exactly. But yeah, no, the UCMJ. So like, say you get in trouble in the military, Or I'm sorry, say you get in trouble as a civilian, but you're still in the military, you now have to go through two courts. So you have your punishment from the military, but then you also have a punishment from the civilian side. So say a soldier gets a DUI, and he's still in.
Mm-hmm.
So not only does he have to go through the civilian court, but he's also, getting punished whatever the military does. So he has to do two sets of punishment,
Mm,
depending on the scenario. Sometimes the court will be like, "Oh, this guy's military. We'll let the military handle his punishment." But sometimes you get double whammy depending on the system or the
yeah.
crime you do. So yeah, UCMJ is not cool. I never got an Article 15 or anything like that. I was squeaky clean. Model soldier.
Model soldier.
Model soldier. I had buddies get Article 15s though, but they were kind of questionable. I was like, oh, just like not being in the right place in that right time, right uniform kind of thing. But let's get to the nitty gritty, man. Let's talk about some
Okay.
real life
Yes.
military mysteries. And the first one on the list here is something along the lines of a disappearance of a Paul Whipkey. You want to read this or you want me to read it?
Yeah, I'd love to read it. I want to get into
All right, go for it.
I want to get into like voiceover later on, so I'm going to practice my narration
Practice.
skills.
Go ahead.
All right, here we
Yeah.
go. In the early 1950s, Lieutenant Paul Whipkey found himself stationed at Fort Ord, California, with the United States Air Force. He was one of the first individuals to witness the atomic bomb tests, but found his health extremely impacted by the aftermath of the atomic tests he worked on. On July 10, 1958, Whipkey decided to leave Fort Ord and drive to Monterey, California, just 1 mile from his base. When he fails to return back to base, he's declared AWOL before being declared a deserter 30 days after his disappearance. 5 weeks after Whipkey's disappearance, his abandoned car is found nearly 500 miles away in a remote section of Death Valley, with his car keys still in the ignition. The
Ooh.
Army believed that he was stressed from his assignment and suffered from some sort of breakdown, so he left the car and walked into the desert where he likely died. In 1977, the Army destroyed all files pertaining to Whipkey's case, making the main discrepancies in his disappearance impossible to look into. However, many of his family and friends believe that he was part of the CIA and died during a mission. And if you go
Ooh.
to the unsolved mysteries website where we got this from, it really does seem to make sense that he might have been working as some sort of covert operative, because he was a model soldier and he, like a great guy. His family all confessed that he would never desert. Like, it was so out of character for him to do that. And then there were kind of discrepancies between like when he left and then where his car was, and people witnesses saying that they saw somebody driving his car in that area, but that he was like wearing a uniform, and when he left base originally he was in civilian clothing. So little discrepancies like that. And then afterwards, the Army coming in, it says, on the very morning Paul turned up missing, 2 soldiers stripped his room at Fort Ord. Everything was removed, including Paul's personal belongings. According to his brother Carl, this was an odd and perhaps illegal procedure. So there's all these little things that just don't line up.
This doesn't add up. Yeah. Now I can see why it's under the unsolved mysteries page here. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, I totally believe it, because that's 1950s, man. That's when
You can get away with a lot.
CIA was in full swing, man. They were toppling dictators and taking people out. And
Yeah, that was
I'm
like
sure,
Bay of Pigs. Like,
Yeah.
wasn't too far after that. CIA was kind of untouchable back then because they could be.
Yeah.
There wasn't everybody didn't have a phone, a camera.
Yep.
You could pretty much run rampant as you wanted to. So I
Right.
wouldn't, I wouldn't put it past anything whether this was like a cover up 100%. I would say 90%, an Army lieutenant, and it's a lieutenant too, huh?
Well, I mean, who knows? But if he was a CIA guy, who knows what kind of training or what kind of experience he had doing whatever else. He might have just been a lieutenant, ostensibly in the military, in the Air Force. But what kind of operative was he? And what it makes me think, this is conjecture on my part, of course, most of it is, but like, he was a part of the tests and then he had radiation poisoning or whatever. And so his health was failing. If I'm a patriotic dude and I want to serve my country and I want to go out with a bang, and I get an opportunity from the CIA to go. They're like, hey man, listen, you're dying in a couple of years. You want to do some work for the CIA? Like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Cause I want
Yeah.
to know within myself that I did everything I could to serve my country, even if I'm dying. And so maybe something happened. Maybe he did do it and then died, or maybe he failed his mission and died. And they're like, Army's like, well, we got to cover this up. So let's take his car, let's drive it out to the desert and just say that he probably just cracked and was sad, even though his
Yeah.
family said he wasn't that kind of guy, you know?
Yeah, and it's not like, okay, let's cuz like now like in the 50s I'm sure there was no like fingerprinting, like there is no forensics that we have today that like
Right.
you can figure out like, oh, there's multiple, handprints, or this guy's prints aren't even in this fucking car. There's it back then you could get away with literally anything,
Yeah.
you know?
Murder.
Oh, murder, easy, easy. Drop somebody in the desert, you're
Yeah.
never finding out. You know how
Yeah.
many serial killers ran around rampant that had like dozens of kills that just live their life and probably are dead now.
Right.
You
We
know,
could talk about a few of them, because like when we get into the military veterans that became serial killers, like Jeffrey Dahmer had his first kill before he was ever even in the military, and nobody found that out, or didn't find it out for a long time.
really? I know I watched that Dahmer documentary. Did he kill someone before he went in the service?
Yeah, was it Dahmer or Son of Sam? I think it was Dahmer that
I know Dahmer went into the service and he was like airborne, right, or something like that.
Dahmer got kicked out for alcoholism. Like, he was not a very good
Yeah.
soldier.
No, he wasn't a good soldier, right?
But I think, yeah, maybe you guys can check us in the comments.
Because I don't think that his first kill was until after the military when he started working out and he would lure his first gay man back. And then he got rejected. Oh no, the hippie.
No,
Remember
murder of Stephen Nicks. Yeah, Dahmer committed his first murder in 1978, 3 weeks after his graduation. Picked up a hitchhiker, Stephen, and then, yeah, lured him back under the pretext of drinking. And then he's like, ooh, I like this guy. And then...
Wait. So this was before the military?
This is before, yeah, college and army service. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
In January, in January 1979, he enlisted in the United States Army. Underwent basic training at Fort McClellan, Anniston, Alabama. Yeah, so he killed somebody, and then he went into the Army, and then he just kept on killing people.
Nice. I mean, not really nice, but like good to know that. I didn't know. I thought it was afterwards. I remember I was watching that Dahmer documentary when it was super popular.
There's even a TV show, like a narration,
Yeah.
like a narrative.
Yeah, little narrative TV show. But let's that Paul Whipke mystery is kind of But here we have
can I sidebar this for just a quick second?
sidebar away, side quest away.
There is a book that my wife, she had already read it, and then we both listened to the audiobook. It's called Chaos, and it is about it starts off with the Charles Manson murders, but then it starts circling outward progressively about, like, we're talking like secret like experiments, like CIA, FBI, like a MK Ultra style experiments to turn people into operatives. Maybe Charles Manson underwent this training, and then he became a cult leader. Yeah.
Banana tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you are somebody that loves a good mystery and just wants to keep pulling on the thread to see where it leads, that's this book. It's called Chaos. I forget the author's name, but it's a tome, man. It's like 1,000 pages long. It's crazy, man. This guy started it, the author. He was going to do like a puff piece for an anniversary of the Manson murders for a magazine. And it just kept going for like 20 years. He took him to write this book, man. It was crazy.
Man.
Anyway,
crazy.
Anyway, CIA got some weirdos in there. So.
Anyway, CIA, a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah.
This real life murder, as we transition, was a little bit more recently, and I know it was in the news, like hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this one, I mean, obviously it didn't become a mystery. It just was a really terrible story.
Yeah.
But it got a lot of press. I remember arguing with college kids on this one about like how it could happen. And I'm like, have you ever been in the military? And I mean, everybody has an opinion about things they've never experienced in their life. But anyways, the murder of Vanessa Guillen. Anyways, it was I'm sorry.
Your guess is as good as mine. Yeah.
Guillen, but a 20-year-old United States Army soldier which took place inside an armory at Fort Hood, Texas on April 22nd, 2020, when she was bludgeoned to death by another soldier, Aaron David Robinson. Gwilyn had been missing for over 2 months when some of her dismembered remains were found buried along the Leon River on June 30th. Upon hearing about the discovery, Robinson fled Fort Hood and fatally shot himself when law enforcement attempted to apprehend him
Mm,
nearby in Killeen, Texas. Now, I mean, obviously it's a tragic event, right? We shouldn't be bludgeoning our fellow soldiers to death
no.
regardless of differences,
On the
right?
list of on the top 10 list of things that you should not do to your fellow soldiers, this is probably number 1 or 2.
Yeah, mostly I would say I would argue number one.
No blame.
Don't bludgeon your fellow soldiers to death. But
Yes.
you've been to Fort Hood, right?
No, I never been to Fort Hood. I've driven
Oof.
through Texas. I've never spent any great amount of time in Texas.
I've been at Fort Hood. I had a friend that I visited. He was stationed at Fort Hood, and that place sucks.
Is that where they had that shooting, that Muslim shooting? The
Yeah,
Muslim
they've
dude that
had
went crazy?
everything bad has happened at Fort
Oh
Hood.
man.
That place is, first of all, Killeen, Texas is like, to put it in perspective for you, probably not the listener, but like, you know, uh, Lakewood, right? For JBLM,
Yes.
basically the second you exit the gate, you are in Lakewood.
Yes. Yep.
That is Killeen to Fort Hood.
Okay.
And as you know, Lakewood, aka Lake Hood, isn't
Yep.
isn't the nicest place in the
No.
world, right?
Yep.
I don't know what that is. I mean, that's a side quest on its own. Why are all military why are all towns that are like right outside the gate of military bases absolute
Yeah.
shitholes?
Sewing shops and bars right outside the
That's it.
gate, you know?
Yeah, that's it. And like Hobo Central. I don't get it. But yeah, that's what Killeen is. It is not a nice place. Which is, and when it says nearby, it's literally like a mile down the street. Um yeah, that's an absolutely terrible one. I know it was in the news. There's a Netflix documentary that came out about it.
Mm,
It
mm.
was just I haven't seen the documentary, but I know when like the news articles were coming out, it's like how did this happen?
Yeah.
You know?
Do we even know why? Have you read the article or anything? I'm just trying to look for it looks like okay, so motive. Aguilar later explained why Robinson killed Gwilyn, saying Gwilyn saw Robinson's cell phone lock screen, which contained a picture of Aguilar. Robinson told her he was worried about getting in trouble for violating the Army's fraternization rules since Aguilar was still married to another soldier, and he hit
Oh.
Gwilyn in the head with a hammer.
Oh my god. Sorry for laughing. That's like an uncomfortable laugh.
I mean,
That's like
that's
a I'm
like,
shocked laugh.
yeah, what? That's why you ruined her. That's why you
Because
killed her and ruined your own life.
you were messing around.
Jeez.
Damn.
Oh man.
People are absolutely crazy. Um, yeah, no, that's an absolutely tragic event. A
Yeah.
lot of it caused a lot of pain for the family. Obviously, it took a long time for them to even find her remains. I remember like watching the news. It was like she's still missing, and like the fact that let's see, soldier took place in an armory on April 22nd, and like wasn't even she'd been missing for 2 months,
Yeah.
and like nothing, not real urgent kind of not a real
Gears
urgent.
move slowly kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
the military in general, but, like, when one of your soldiers goes missing, it's not kind of like "Oh, like, we should probably, like, drop everything we're doing and try to find this person."
Yeah.
And, yeah, kinda another side quest. Do you even know what AWOL means?
Absent without leave.
Okay, that I never knew. I always thought it sounds a lot less worse than it is once you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's that's like old school military terminology.
yeah. Oh, it's like absent without official leave.
Absent without leave. Okay, yeah, absent without leave. 5 consecutive days, voluntary, involuntary, consider automatic resignation from the state of service. Oh, okay.
Wow, okay. Wait, 5 days? If you're AWOL for 5 days, it's automatic resignation?
Yeah. Absence without leave for 5 consecutive days with a voluntary, involuntary is considered an automatic resignation from state service as of the last day of the employed workday. I'm just looking at some human resources. So this is
Uh,
California. Oh, okay.
oh,
So
I
that's
see.
not a fit. That's California. Something else.
That's just work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like you don't show up to your job, you resigned. You're not fired though. That's interesting.
Right. Fail to show up for your reported place of duty on time. Fail to show up at your reported place of duty at all. or leave your reported place of duty, unit, or organization. Well, I want to talk about serial killers.
Let's talk about serial killers.
I just wanted
There's
to.
actually a shocking amount of them.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, it's there's this interesting phenomenon. I think, or all these serial killers between like born in the 50s and like the 70s had like all these serial killers. You know,
Yeah.
we got Son of Sam, Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, Jeffrey Dahmer, Dennis Rader, BTK, I guess he was called, and then Randy Kraft, the Freeway Killer, all military veterans, which I kind of, you don't want, you love the military, you love the army, and you don't want it to be besmirched by serial killers. But
Yeah.
then again, people are people, and like you say, you could walk and be walking somebody next to somebody in uniform, and maybe they're a serial killer. You don't know,
You don't know. Okay, so let's see. Let's go down the list and see kind of. So we have Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. He joined the United States Navy and was in Vietnam, where he was
Yeah.
on board a supply ship and saw combat. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So then we have David Berkowitz. Let's see. David Berkowitz, military. What did you do?
Son of Sam. Dude, by the
Served in
way,
the.
is
Oh
this
man.
guy the guy that they featured in Mind Hunters? Because I
I
think the
think
guy they
so. He
got,
looks really familiar.
he looks like because he's got kind of a baby face, and so I think
Yeah.
the actor they got to play him in the series Mind Hunters on Netflix was a good job because he's creepy, man.
He is creepy. He is creepy looking. He looks like almost somebody you would draw from memory,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, so he joined the army. It doesn't really say about he served
Enlisted in the Army
3
in
years in
1971.
the army.
Yeah, served at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and then with the infantry division in South Korea, was honorably discharged in 1974.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
All right, we know Jeffrey Dahmer. Okay, so we have Dennis Rader.
classic serial killer.
Classic.
Jeffrey Dahmer, was he
Classic.
one of the dude? Who was the guy? Was it him that there was kind of a media storm surrounding him, and even young ladies were saying like, "Oh, he's kind of sexy," Was that him? Was that
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer? So weird. People
No,
are
that was the Los Angeles. That was the LA guy.
oh,
What was his
different
name
guy.
again? Robert Rodriguez. No, his name was
Robert Rodriguez, the director of
no, not
Spy
the
Kids.
director. Yeah, no. What was his name? His name was I mean, I'm glad I don't remember it.
All right, yeah, maybe it's
That's
best. If
the
you don't.
LA the LA
And you know what? You look at these dudes: Dennis Rader, Jeffrey Dahmer,
Night
Randy
Stalker.
Kraft, Knights. Though the Knights, not
Night
Kolchak, the Night Stalker, but the Night
Richard Ramirez, not
Richard
Robert.
Ramirez.
Richard
I don't
Ramirez, the
remember
Night
him.
Stalker.
Oh.
Yeah.
All these dudes, crazy sexual stuff, man. I think
Yeah,
all of
super
them,
weird.
something sexual about what they did when they were caught and they finally confessed. What's crazy is that I think Dennis Rader, he was in the Air Force for about 4
Yeah,
years.
he was in the Air Force, discharge.
Yep, but he killed for decades, man. He'd kill and then he'd stop, and then he would kill again, and then he was one of those weirdos that would ride into the television stations like, "Hey, I'm the guy. You'll never catch me or whatever. You should call me BTK for blind torture kill and they obliged him, of course. But yeah, he stopped, and then it was only DNA evidence in the early 2000s that ended up leading to his capture. So like
Oh
he
my
could
God.
have, I don't know,
Totally got away with him.
totally with it. Yeah, for decades, man.
Yeah,
That'd be
this is
weird.
back in the day.
Yeah, that'd be weird if like you're a kid, you're living your life, and then you find out your dad was a serial killer.
Yeah, oh, intense. That's a lot of trauma.
Oh my
That's a lot
gosh.
of trauma. And then finally, you have Randy Kraft, the freeway killer, and he was in the Air Force, and
Yep.
he
Edwards Air
supervised
Force
the
Base out here
painting
in
of
California.
tests. Yeah, Edwards Air Force Base.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the military. I know a couple people in the military that I would consider serial killers, just not killing innocent people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that fine line, dude. Fine
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. I guess now would be I've spoken of him before, but that not a serial killer, but just speaking of people that you don't know. But Steve Green,
Yeah.
basic training. And if you've ever seen the movie Redacted, that is based off a horrible incident of a bunch of soldiers in the early days of the Iraq War going out and killing a young girl, raping and killing a young girl, and then killing her whole family and like lighting them on fire.
Yeah.
And
No, you've talked about this guy. Real sick and twisted
sick,
bastard.
twisted dude, and he's burning in hell now. So it's
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Didn't you say he got the what's it called? Um he got the death penalty?
Let's see. I forget. I'd have to look up his case. I know that he tried to basically he ended up dying because he tried to commit suicide while in custody, and then
Yeah.
he ended up dying of those not recovering, dying of those injuries or whatever. But he got caught. His trial was going on, and then he was either convicted and then killed himself, or he was on his way to being convicted and then killed himself. But yeah, crazy man, crazy dude. You'd like to think, Cameron, that in military service, it can happen. Like we're all a collection of parts and we can be urged, kind of pushed one way or the other based on any number of different factors. But you'd like to believe that the military would hopefully create with its values and its structure good, productive members of society, right?
Yeah.
And it can be, but maybe if the raw material that you're working with is already too damaged and too dark and too demon possessed or whatever, maybe it's
Yeah.
just no hope,
Yeah, man. I mean, like in the beginning, we said there's all different types of character, and you would love to believe that like the military creates a product that's perfect. But if you put shit in the ice cream machine, it's not gonna come out chocolate
Great
flavored, dude.
image, man. That's a great, disgusting image.
Yeah, it's like you put shit in an ice cream machine, it's not gonna come out chocolate flavored.
Oh, oh
It's
God.
just gonna come out looking a little different, still tasting like shit.
Yeah,
Because I've met some dirt bags in the military, like
yeah,
absolute pieces of shit.
yeah.
But it's weird, and they probably, I went to, let's see, I wouldn't call him a piece of shit. That's just really bad that happened. I went to rasp with a guy that ended up killing like 3 or 4 people on accident.
Oh no.
He Yeah, I think he was driving drunk
Uh,
in Georgia and
hmm.
ended up, by the wheel, like he hit, either another car or he hit someone on this like a bicyclist on the side of the road or something. Like multiple people were killed.
Ugh.
And like he ended up going to jail for a long, I think he's still in jail. But like that was tragic. I know there was actually Hmm. That wasn't really I have some crazy stories of when I was in. Um, I went through basic training. This is on the other side, the victim side. I went through basic training with a guy that he grew up in Berkeley, California.
Mhm.
And I think, we were in the same platoon and stuff, got to know him a little bit. And then after basic training, I think he was stationed at Fort Bliss, or he was either stationed at Fort Bliss and he was in the National Guard, but I think he was at Fort Bliss because that's in like El Paso, Texas.
Mhm.
And like one day, I just saw a news article about Fort Bliss soldier found dead, found remains found in the desert, and it showed a picture of the guy I went to basic training with. So this guy somehow was, I
Ah.
think he was found in the desert. He was missing, and then they found his body in the desert. So
Ugh.
something happened to him,
Oh, dang.
and
And they still don't know?
they still don't know. No, so that's a mystery. Like nobody knows what happened to him.
Dang,
Um,
man. Even with
and
today's technology and investigative
yeah,
tools we
I know.
have.
Like I think he was kidnapped and then assaulted, because I'm
Uh,
pretty sure they found him naked in the desert.
oh, man, that's
Yeah,
rough, dude.
it is super rough.
Dang,
Yeah,
man.
it is crazy. Yeah, and then you want to talk about like serial killers? I mean, this guy could have potentially been one.
Oh,
Uh,
this is a different guy. Yeah.
this is a different guy.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually, it's someone that I met personally and knew for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I'll save the names though. I'll scrub the names just for privacy's sake. But when I showed up to regiment, there was a guy, a tabbed E5 that was in my company, and they put him in the arms room. He was like the NCO, IC, the non-commissioned officer in charge of the arms room, and something was a little off about this guy. Because no, he was super cool. I mean, he was like, sociable.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't understand what would happen. He was just a nerd. Like he would play video games. He was like you.
Wait a second. What are you trying to
No,
say?
he'd always play video games. Like he came from 375, I
Okay.
think was the story, and then he was here at 275. And like, I don't know. I knew something was wrong with him, like mentally, because poor soul, he had a private that worked underneath him in the arms room. And this guy was super nice. His last name Cassidy. Super nice guy. Like, I think pretty sure he grew up in like Utah, but just a really nice guy. He never got his Ranger tab, but like sometimes there's guys that are so good at a job. Like he was the guy you wanted in an arms room. Like he was awesome. But his boss was not good news. So like I'd be sitting in my cage as a private and things would be quiet and you just hear blood curdling screaming, like straight up screaming that like would blow blood vessels out of your neck, just at poor Cassidy. To like he's just screaming at him like, you will respect me, you will like not cool screaming.
Oh my god.
Like, and that happened quite often. And I remember I was, that was kind of like, this guy's got something missing. And since he was in the arms room, he had access to all of the civilian owned or all of the personally owned firearms. Because technically, you're supposed, if you have a firearm and you live in the barracks, you're supposed to keep it in the arms room. You're not allowed to keep firearms in the barracks. Supposed to. But so he had access to these because he has all the keys. He is the master of the arms room. So one day I was in bus driver school, which honestly is the best school in the military. It was so chill. 2 weeks vacation, baby. Yeah. So anyways, I'm at bus driver school and I just finished for the day, at least. I think I had like 2 more days before I took my test. And I get a call from my team leader. And he's like, hey, don't come here. Because I was heading into work. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, we're on lockdown. There's an active shooter. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, whatever you do, just don't come to the compound right now. I'll call you when you're allowed to come back.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, sounds good. Come to find out, this guy, the Tab D5, stole a personally owned shotgun, one of my other team leader had a Remington 870 in the arms room. He took it, got into his car, and then he drove right outside of Post, where like the Popeyes is, all the sew shops.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that called? That wasn't Victory Boulevard. That's Fort Benning. But what was that street called?
Oh man,
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But was there a Popeyes there?
Oh man, I can't remember. I know that
Okay.
I'm thinking like there's like a
Anyways.
Subway and then a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah. So anyways, on one there's a Popeyes there right next to the sew shop.
Okay.
And like there is a Popeyes there. He pulled into the Popeyes, rolled down his window and shot a random guy in the face, and then was on the run for 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
Did I ever tell you the story?
Oh my god, you have never told me this story.
Oh my God.
I would remember something like this.
Yeah, so he like took the shotgun and he shot this guy in the face and then went on the run for like 2 or 3 days. Like the police were after him. He like basically was found. He tried to carjack someone and he was like, "Give me your car," and they were like, "No." And it like turned into this giant thing. And then they found him because he would be hiding in the woods. He'd covered himself predator style in mud, I'm pretty sure, and like he tried hiding underneath somebody's porch. And like the guy came out and held him at gunpoint, and until the cops came. And
wow.
So that guy got like, I think he pleaded insanity, and I think he's getting out soon.
What? All right. Right.
Fun
When
fact.
he hears this episode.
Yeah. Fun fact. The guy he shot in the face didn't die.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a possible serial killer in the making.
Cameron, that's amazing, man. I'm surprised you have held on to that story for so long.
Really?
In the
I
years
haven't
that we've
told
known
you
each
that?
other. No, man. No.
Really? Oh man.
Poor Cassidy, man. Hopefully he,
Oh, after he was gone, like he took over that place and it was good.
God.
Poor Cassidy.
Man.
I hope if you're listening to this, buddy, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also have another one that's way shorter, but if you want to hear it.
I gotta hear it, man. We're right out of
Okay.
time, but I gotta hear it. I gotta hear
Okay.
it.
This one it's a lot shorter. It's like because
Okay.
I didn't know the guys. But anyways, when I was like a gun team leader, we had this guy, brand new private, come out of RASP, went to Alpha Company. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure he was like an Indian or a Pakistani guy,
Okay.
and like one weekend, we come back into work and the cops and everybody are at the compound, which is not really that shocking of news because the police are always at the compound for some reason, especially after a weekend.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness.
turns out this brand new private like went to Seattle and hired a hooker and threw her off a bridge.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he threw her off of a bridge and like got caught or something. And like so he killed this hooker and then come to find out he might have been a spy.
Really?
Yeah, because his parents were Indian or Pakistani, and they like the FBI got involved and started like basically going through his data and stuff. And it turned out that he was like funneling information to his parents, and his parents were always asking about his security clearance and all this stuff. And
That's
yeah, so
Packy. You're gonna watch out for
yeah.
them Packy. I don't know why I'm Australian all of a sudden.
But yeah, so that was, I'm sure there's more that I
Man,
can think
Cameron,
about.
I feel your stories make me feel good about my time in service because
Oh
apparently
yeah,
I
dude,
didn't know
it
enough
was so
crazy
mature,
people. Yeah,
and it
they were
was
generally
yeah.
skewed older in SF and stuff, and so there was some petty stuff that went on, but generally we were all had pretty level heads for the
Oh
most
yeah,
part.
not there, dude. That was psycho town. Like, dude, yeah. That's why I always start like grow up in Ranger Regiment, and like it'll give you an amazing perspective. That's like people are so I think they're so good after they get out of regiment because they're thankful
Yeah.
for the opportunity. Like they
Uh,
got the skills, but
yeah.
then they work so hard because they're just grateful to be somewhere else.
They're like, I'm free. I can really live my life now, free from trauma and psychoses.
Yeah,
Oh
dude.
man. Well,
Yeah, no,
Cameron, those are amazing stories. I'm glad that you held on to them for this episode in
I had
particular.
no idea. I didn't tell you that story. Yeah.
I'm glad you did, man. It's funny because you and I have a limited amount of time in the military that from which we can pull
Yeah.
stories, and you and we've told stories, the same stories multiple ways, but then every once in a while, a little gem, a different story
Yeah.
will come out of the
I
woodwork.
know
So
though. I'll just like sometimes like the military service is kind of it's a black hole. And
yeah,
like sometimes out of nowhere it'll just spit something new out. And you're like, "Oh
yeah,
yeah, I remember that."
yeah,
You're
that
like, "Oh yeah,
yeah.
I did that." And I just totally forgot about it. Yeah.
Oh
But
man. All
that's
right.
awesome.
That's awesome, Cameron. Thank you so much for sharing those. Folks, we are going to get on to a fan question, and then we got a game. I think, Cameron, you got the game this time.
Yep, I got the
But
game.
Gavin has sent us an email asking, have either of you ever considered joining the police or the FBI or anything like that?
Yeah. I
Cameron?
mean, yep, yes I did. I actually was in the right when I was going out, I came home to take the expedited LAPD entry
Wow.
application, and I went through the entire thing. I was all the way through it, just waiting on a call, pretty much from background to be like, "You're good. Here's your date." But and I'm pretty sure this was like the best thing that ever happened to me. But like one day, it was taking a little bit of long. It was taking like a lot longer than they said it was going to. So I called them. I'm like, "Hey, my name's Cameron. I'm looking to see the status of like my application. I went through the expedited process. Here's my, my file number, like my application number." And I gave it to them, and the lady on the phone was like, "I'm sorry, we don't have any record of your application at all. Like it's like you never even applied." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't just spend 5 days in a suit and tie like going through your entire freaking application and polygraph and background and psych for nothing."
Oh my
And it turns out
God.
they just completely lost it. And when I got to the National Guard, a lot of my peers and subordinates were officers in the LAPD. Very, very common in the National Guard. And like I asked him, I was like, "Hey man, have you ever heard of like the LAPD like losing application packets? Like, am I just being stiff armed here?" And he's like, "Oh no, they lose them all the time."
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, "Wow, what a waste of fucking time." But
Yeah,
then
man.
they called me like a year later, and they're like, "Hey, we found your application. Are you still interested?" And I'm like, "Fuck no! Don't call me again."
I think the world has benefited greatly from that mistake. Uh,
Yeah.
I myself, no, I never considered joining the police, FBI, anything like that. There was a brief moment in time as I was out processing that I thought, well, maybe I could do some private contracting, but
Yeah.
I just didn't have the gumption. I was like, I'm going to go to LA and become a famous actor. I'm going to do a brain dump on all of my military information. And, and I wish I hadn't, because here I am
Here I
wishing I
am.
could remember half of the stories that you do, man.
Well, I mean, 20 years is a bit of a difference, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Well, we hope we answered that question for you, Gavin. And now it is time to transition to the game. And I have a game for you, Israel.
Oh,
And this game is called Crimes and Misdemeanors. This is a little trivia game that highlights the difference between civilian law and military law.
oh God.
You should do exceptionally well, according to Chris.
Okay. I don't know if you're joking, Chris, because I was having a hard time remembering what UCMJ meant. But hey, I'm excited. Chris makes good
Well,
games. So.
he does make good games, and this isn't that long of a game. It's only 4 questions, and they're multiple choice.
Oh,
So you're good.
okay, go. All right.
Okay.
I'm
And
ready.
no warm up. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Question number 1. Civilians get their Miranda rights read to them. In the military, it's called. I didn't even know this shit. I mean, then again, I haven't been arrested in the military before.
Yeah,
I got a
neither have
speeding
I.
ticket on post one time, but that's it. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to read you this.
Yeah, like I don't know what it is, man.
Sorry. It is Article A, Article 50, B, Article 78, or C, Article 31. In the military, your Miranda rights are called 50, 78, or 31.
31 for some reason has the truest ring to it. Like I've heard it before or heard it the most often. So I'm just going to say 31.
Nice, man. Way to go with your gut. It is Article 31.
All
And
right.
learning too. Keep it rolling, baby. Okay, here we go. Number 2. Court martials are trials for military personnel, but they are 3 different types. The most severe trial, reserved for serious felony level crimes, is called a blank courts martial. Is it A, summary, B, general, or C, special? So summary court martial, general court martial, or special court martial?
I mean, my instinct is special because it's severe. Like general is like, we're just kind of getting rid of you or whatever. Summary has some weight to it, but I'm having a hard time thinking of how it might relate to a crime specifically. But special, it's special. You did a special thing. You get a special court martial.
Well, you're wrong. It is not
Nah.
special. It's actually general, which is
What?
super interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds interesting.
Yeah. So general courts martial is the most severe type. So if you find yourself facing a general one, call Tom Cruise.
Maybe
Okay.
there's
Number
a general
3.
on the board. Maybe it's a general on the tribunal.
Yeah, possibly. All right. Number 3. Military juries have to be a unanimous vote to convict. True or false?
Oh man. Because I'm gonna say false. Because don't civilian juries have to be unanimous, right? For criminal, right? Let's say no. I'm gonna say false. Just like 51%, like 50 plus 1% or whatever.
Oh, that plus one's helping you out. Yes, it is false. And little explanation here. The military is one jurisdiction that still allows a split verdict in criminal trials. In most cases, a 3/4 majority is required for a conviction, in parentheses, up from 2/3 prior from 2019. Cases involving capital offense charges are the exception to this. When a death sentence is possible, all panel members must vote unanimously.
I get that. It's a pretty high
Mhm.
standard to put somebody to death. So
Yeah, so everybody's got to be on the same page. We got to kill this dude. All right, well, you're doing good. You only missed one, and let's see if you can finish strong here. Question number 4. The set of laws that the military is governed by is called Uniform Code of Military Justice, the Military Code of Conduct, or the Military Code of Judgments.
I'm so glad we talked about it in the episode today. So that'd be A, Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Yep, that one was kind of a giveaway. I was hoping the last one was like a ball buster, but way to go. Yep, you are absolutely corrected. And that's going to conclude this week's game.
Woo! Thanks. Good game. Good game. I like learning any military lore, military information because, man, like you say, we're going on 14 years out for me at this point, and I still love the world. I still love like that dipping my toe in that world, but man, I'm
Yeah,
very, very far out at this
it's
point.
okay. You're good, man. You're better than the rest of us. You're living your own life,
That's
unlike
right.
me, who literally is entire identity still and can't find his own way. Okay.
you're
Well,
you're making you're making hay while while the sun shines, man.
there you go. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed this episode of CSI PCFM. We hope you learned something about some crazy serial killers or just had a good time with us. Don't forget to check out the Patreon, our merchandise, all the cool stuff we said in the beginning, and subscribe to our YouTube.
Yeah, folks, and if you like horror games, I got a channel myself. Speaking of being a nerd and a gamer, go check out the Iz Files on YouTube. the Iz Files. Got some great stuff coming out for that in the future.
Yeah, and then also subscribe to my YouTube since we're plugging.
Oh
If you
yeah,
got,
Cameron.
up on
Yeah,
the rise. Yeah, if
I've
you
got some
want to learn.
amazing stuff coming out, man.
Yep, some educational, tactical content for you that's also entertaining. So check that out. That's Kit God Cam. With that, folks,
Cue music.